One of the most challenging things about a marriage seminar is deciding the subject. Of course, it's just so wide about the things that you can and probably should talk about, and so I have to be very selective, and I've chosen subjects for this seminar that I hope will be important in your life and helpful. And it just occurs to me that if there are just 2 or 3 things even that you think, I could do better about that, write them down so you won't forget them. And I think that would be a great success for the seminar. Now, who do we have who has the most children at home under 10? Who has 3 under 10? Anybody? Who has 2 under 10? Okay. I'll tell you what then. I'm going to give this to her, but I want you to get one of these off the table with my compliments. It's Hannah's 100. What this is 100 verses of Scripture set to music, and you can play it in the van, or if you play it before they go to sleep at night, then they will sing the Scriptures. And the only downside is that you will too. You'll be cutting the grass, and you won't be able to get the verse off your mind. You'll be singing it over and over again. Let me tell you about this. This is premarital counseling. And so Rudy Kane at World Video Bible School in Austin called me one day and he said, what if we make a DVD of premarital counseling for congregations that don't have anybody that's comfortable doing this, that the church could just hand to a young couple? And so that's what this is. And I don't know if it will be interesting to someone, but I want to tell you that it exists, where the couple would get together and watch. There are 8 different segments at different times, and each one will make assignments. So they watch one, turn it off, and do the assignments, whatever they happen to be. And so I don't think it's as good as being face-to-face for pre-marriage counseling, but it's the next best thing, I think, even though I'm the one doing it. And so we got some of those back there, too. This session is for how to love a wife. Now, you already know that this is a very broad subject, and what I'm going to do is the tip of the iceberg. But I do want to plant some things in the minds of our husbands. Now, we're going to do fair play, and tomorrow, one session will be how to love a husband. Those 2 sessions are dramatically different. I happen to believe that people today who are making such a push to say that there are little or almost no differences between the genders is just crazy. I don't think we should push back against the differences. I think we should celebrate the differences. We're not competing with one another. What we're doing is completing one another, right? I never did want to be a woman. I never did. I look around this room and, you guys would make really bad women and ugly to boot. You would be ugly women. It's a terrible thing for a woman to try to be a man. That's no good. Marriage is wonderful, but we're different, and we should celebrate those differences. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. God made us with great design and purpose. So let's talk about how to love a woman. Now, ladies, when you get in the car with your husband, if you have your husband with you tonight, you can ask, or gentlemen, you can ask her, what do you think about that? Do you think, is that something, because some of this I don't think is self-evident. I don't think it's intuitive. Some of these things are not at all. The Bible teaches that a man ought to love his wife. Here's Ephesians 5, verse 22. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, just as Christ is the head of the church, and he's the Savior of the body. Therefore, just as the church is subject to Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives. It'd have been nice, I suppose, had he left it right there. Husbands, love your wives. Well, if I got to decide how I did that, that might be a little easier, but he didn't. Watch this, because this is profound. Love your wives just as Christ loved the church. Wow, that enlarged it considerably. I'm to love her like Christ loved the church. What exactly do you mean by that, Lord? And here's the next line, and gave himself for her. Now, just to get to the point of it, what that says is, gentlemen, I'm to love her enough to die for her. You know what that says? Christ loved the church, gave himself. He went to the cross for the church. I'm to love my wife as Christ loved the church. I'm to love her enough to die for her. That's what it says. Do you love her enough to die for her? Fact of the matter is, if you don't live for her, you probably wouldn't die for her. There can't be anything in your life, aside from your relationship to Jesus Christ, that you wouldn't be willing to give up for your wife and your marriage. She knew I liked to go hunting before we got married. I don't know why she's always fussing about it. Wait a minute. Is that getting in the way? I talked to a man one time, Christian man, and I'm telling you, he was very serious. He's a serious fisherman. Loved to go fishing, had a fancy boat with sparkles all over it. And he would say things like that. She knew how much I loved fishing. He would fish professionally, which is the thing I don't even understand. But some people would pay him, and had put stickers on his boat, the one with sparkles. And he's divorced now. She finally left him. I did not say that she did the right thing. She did not. But he was very cavalier about this thing, about how that his hobby was important to him and that, she'd just have to get used to that. Well, he was a foolish man. What this says is, and I understand the balances that would go in, I understand all that, but what I'm saying is that this teaches I'm to love her enough to die for her. I remember a woman who said to her husband, Fred, you always say you love me enough to die for me, but you never do it. All right. I thought, well, they're slow. They are slow. Love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, that he might present her to himself. Do you see how important the bride of Christ is to him? And how important your wife is to be to you? Present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy, without blemish. So husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife, are you ready for this, gentlemen? He who loves his wife loves himself. It's like the t-shirt that says, when mama is happy, everybody's happy. You see this verse? Sir, do yourself a favor and be good to your wife. Right? He who loves his wife loves himself. No one ever hates his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. For we're members of his body, of his flesh, of his bones. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. Here's 1 Peter 3:7. Likewise, ye husbands, he's been talking to the wives. And then he shifts gears in verse 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel. Are you giving honor to your wife? And as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. What I want to do tonight is give you 5 or so different categories, ways to show love for your wife. Now, see, this is very important. I do not think that a man is necessarily wired knowing how to love his wife in the way that communicates well to her. What she, it's just kind of amusing, really. When you think about you and your spouse just before you married, you deeply in love, wanting to get married, couldn't wait to be married, which is a good thing. It's a great stage of your relationship. And if I had asked both of you, do you know how to show affection to your spouse when you marry? You'd say yes. Both of you would say yes. But you may be thinking about very different things. What a man thinks about may not be what a woman thinks about in reference to showing affection. 1 Peter 3:7 that I just read says, dwell with them according to knowledge. Can we just draw a lesson from that? I think that there's some ways that we have affection as men that are intuitive, that are instinctive. I mean, when Caleb, our firstborn, was born, our son, and we have 2 children, Caleb and Hannah, and when Caleb was born, I was present for the birth of both of my babies. I wouldn't take $1 million for it. Why, it was wonderful. The doctor was a good 45 minutes away from where we lived, and I burned up that road. It was time, and she called the doctor, and we talked it over. Here's what's happening. Yeah, y'all, come on. It was on the Lord's Day, and I called one of the elders and said, Can you preach? I got to go. I got to go. And so we flew, went through that process. At one point, the doctor looked at me and said, Glenn, I think you need to sit down. You're getting kind of pale. I think, yeah, ooh, okay. And then Caleb was born. And the nurse was there, and cord was cut. They took the baby and cleaned him up a little bit and wrapped him. They swaddled him, and then do you know who held Caleb first? That would be me. I guess it's because I was the one paying the bills, but it was me. And nobody had to say, now, Mr. Colley, we want you to love this baby. He had my ears, my nose. Are you kidding me? You know, for those of you who have children and have experienced that, I'm telling you, there's nothing like that. That was intuitive. Nobody had to teach me that. But it's interesting, the scripture here says, dwell with your wife according to knowledge. I'm just saying that there are kinds of affection that make sense to your wife that are spoken in a language that you may not speak. And so it is with that emphasis that I make this list. First of all, the Cary Grant category. I've named these in such a way that I hope they'll be memorable. You can call them what you want, but I just want you to get the point, so I put these names to them. Cary Grant, very famous romantic movie actor of a generation gone now. And the Cary Grant category are the romantic things that you would think of. Okay, so this one's kind of easy. I want you to do kind, sentimental, intimate, romantic things for your wife. This is the kind of thing where you write her notes and you leave them around the house for her to find. Maybe you would put one under her pillow, and when she goes back in there after you're gone to work or whatever, and she would find it, or somewhere else. I knew of a man who would get up in the night. If he woke up in the night to go to the bathroom, he would go to in the bathroom where she would dress the next morning and put her makeup on, and he would take a dry erase marker and he would write her something very sweet on her mirror and cap it off and go back to bed. And in the morning when she got up, there was that note. It's really sweet. She appreciated that. I heard of a man one time his wife liked to shower instead of to bathe, and so when she was in the shower, he would sneak in there and take her towel and put it in the dryer for a couple of minutes and get it hot, and then he would put it back on the rack and just get out so that when she reached for it. That's the Cary Grant category. Cary Grant category is, I don't know how your wife feels about flowers. Most women really love flowers. I like flowers. I think they're pretty and they smell like a funeral. They're all very nice, but if Mrs. Colley doesn't buy me any flowers, you know what, that's okay. But I buy them for her. I do. You can stop off at Walmart, and for about $8, you can buy a fistful of flowers and take them home. And when I do, I usually, this is kind of personal, but I put them behind my back. And we've been married 40 years. I put them behind my back. And I, go to the door and, hello? And she'll come and she'll see, and she'll say, oh, what's behind your back? Well, it's a secret, it's a secret. And we'll play around with that, and then I show them to her. Now, see, I do not understand the flower thing so much, but I understand what's in her eyes when I give them to her. Look, I'm telling you, I understand that. I like that very much, and this is for you. We'll talk about this some more tomorrow, but an additional secret, gentlemen, is that you give her flowers on the days that you do not anticipate intimacy. If you only give her flowers when you anticipate intimacy, she'll figure that out. Right? Okay. That's the Cary Grant category. The Cary Grant category is that you sometimes take her to dinner, but you don't wait until, you know what, at your house, is dinner ever late? Now, I have a clock in my stomach, I'm kind of regimented, and if supper is late, I don't complain, but I do go to the cupboard, to the pantry, and you kind of look around, and maybe the fridge, can I get an apple here? Can I do something? I'm really hungry. And sometimes what I'll do is it'll get like that, and I'll say, hey, Cindy, you want to go out? And sometimes she'll say yes or no, whatever, but you don't get really any points for that. What you get points for is asking her early that morning, or even better, the day before, to say, would you go out to dinner with me tomorrow night? See, because that's what she wants, is to know that you think about her. And that's going to permeate most of these things, that you think about her and that you want her well-being and her happiness, and and all of that. So making an appointment for dinner is better than saying at the last minute because you're starving to say, how about dinner? You want to go to dinner tonight when I get home? That's the Cary Grant category. All right, number 2, the Mr. Clean category. Now this one's really surprising to a man. It doesn't make any sense, but if you talk to a woman about, a wife, about what's very romantic, one of the things that she'll often say is, and you can turn around and look at her right now and say, honey, is this true? But one of the things she finds to be very romantic is voluntary help with the house. Voluntary is important, where it's not that you begged him into it or shamed him into it or traded him something for some housework. It's that, you finished your dinner and he gets up out of the chair, and maybe you're not paying much attention to that, but he gets up and you hear dishes. And he's loading the dishwasher. You didn't even say anything to him. He's loading the dishwasher. Or, I tell you what, I'm not the best husband, but we have a lot of company at our house, which is a blessing. Now, of course, COVID has changed that some, but typically we have a lot of company. And when we do now, Cindy, she cleans that house. She wants that house clean even where people aren't going to look, she wants it clean. And so when that's happening, I try to come home an hour or hour and a half from work early, and I put on my blue jeans and I say, now, Cindy, hey, Cindy, I will be your slave for an hour and a half. And whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And she'll say, you mean it? Yeah, I mean it. She'll say, will you clean the bathrooms? Yeah, I'll clean the bathrooms. Listen, I'm good at it too. I am good at that. I slap those chemicals and it'll be spick before I'm done. It's good. And I'll go back and I'll say, now you've got 40 minutes left. Anything else? Would you vacuum? Yeah, I'll vacuum. Now, what I'm telling you is that if you ask a woman, if you ask a wife, what kinds of things communicate to you that are romantic to you, I believe this is the list. There's a Cary Grant category, those kinds of things, but the Mr. Clean category is the second one. Here's the third one, the Santa Claus category. All right, now listen, this is, I can't tell you how weighty this is. Gentlemen, you must not forget the important dates. In my office, I have 2 poster calendars. One is the calendar for this year, and as soon as the new calendars come out about June, I get the next one so that I know what I'm going to be doing. A lot of the time, I know what that is. But I don't care how you do it, gentlemen. I don't care how you remember the dates, but you've got to remember the dates. You've got to remember, Christmas is easy. They play that music to help you remember. But birthday, anniversary, Valentine's Day, we have some dear friends, members of the body, that are wonderful Christians. He's an elder in the church, but he was raised very differently from her. She was raised in a more typical American home where they acknowledged holidays, birthday, anniversary, those sorts of things, but not him. He was raised in a family where I think Christmas, birthday, anniversary, just another day. They didn't give gifts. They didn't really acknowledge those things. He's the only man that I've ever known who'd had that to this degree. Wonderful man, but that's just how it is. And she'll go to worship, meet the other women the Sunday after Valentine's Day, and they'll be chatting. And what did your husband get you for Valentine's Day? Well, he got me some flowers. He got me some chocolate. Wonderful. And they'll turn to this girl and say, what did your husband do? And she'll say, well, we don't much go in for that sort of thing. She's been hurting over this for years, 4 years. So what I'm saying, we have some dear friends members of the church, wonderful people, Bob and Sarah. And Bob, in a different state from yours, Bob, on her birthday, he had forgotten. He came downstairs. She was cooking breakfast. He just didn't know what day it was. And she couldn't wait to see what he had got her. Well, he didn't get her anything because he didn't remember. He didn't remember it was her birthday. And so she was chipper and singing, and she's so happy to see him come down the stairs. And, hey, baby, hey. And, he goes out to the truck, and he's getting his tools together. He looks under the truck seat, and there's a Hallmark card from last Christmas to her that he forgot to give to her last Christmas. So he brings it in, and it's just a coincidence. He puts it on the counter and says, here, Merry Christmas. And she thought, it's my birthday present. Well, it wasn't. It was a Christmas card he had forgotten all the way back. And she started realizing he didn't remember it was her birthday. Her countenance fell. He goes to work. It's a Wednesday. That evening, he comes back home again, and they meet up, and they get in the same car, and they go to Bible study together. Nothing. I mean, by that time, it's nighttime, and she knows he doesn't know it's her birthday. She's crushed. He says afterwards, I got to go to Walmart and get something. And he buys a tackle box. And as he pitches it in the truck, this is all true. He pitched it in the truck and he said, well, I bought myself a birthday present. And she said, as you know, Bob, it's not your birthday. It's mine. I do not know how you get back from that. I don't know how you fix that. How could you spend enough money to make up for that? I don't know. But what I want to say to you is this, gentlemen. Remember the important days. Remember the important days. Gifts don't have to be expensive to be important. I want to say one more thing about gifts, just to put a thought in your mind. This is suggestion. Ladies, please don't listen to this. This is private. Just to the men. When you're with your wife on those perhaps rare occasions and you're at some store, we have a beautiful mall, outdoor mall in Huntsville called Bridge Street. Nice restaurants, beautiful stores, and it's a wonderful place to eat some ice cream and walk, and it's kind of upscale. It's very nice. And so Cindy likes to go there, and I like to take her. And there are a couple of dress stores that she's crazy about. Very expensive, and so, she's very frugal. But we were in one of those one night. I just find a place to sit down and let her take her time. And so she found this dress. And, oh, look at this. And it's on sale. Isn't that beautiful? And it was pretty. It was kind of a woven, looked kind of like a tablecloth. It was really pretty. And oh yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, here's the way I used to do it. And this is wrong. This is the wrong way to do it. The wrong way is your wife picks up something. Maybe it's a scarf. Maybe it's a candle. My wife loves to keep candles burning in the house, which I kind of like. And she'll say, oh, Glenn, here, look at this. Smell this. Oh, yeah, that smells good. And then I would make this mistake of saying, well, if you like it, buy it. Our kids are grown. We don't have the same kind of financial constraints that we had when they were at home. And if I don't mean if it's a sports car, but if it's a candle, I would say, well, honey, just buy it. Just buy it. And you know what she would say? She would say, well, I don't think so. And here's the smart thing, and here's what I want you to do, gentlemen. Next time your wife says that about something that you can afford, you say, oh, that's really beautiful. I like that. And as y'all are walking away, in your mind you're saying, Belk store, aisle 13, the blue dress, or the blue scarf, or the red candle, aisle 13, Belk. And you get that. And then tomorrow, when it's your lunch break, so I went back to that store at Bridge Street the next day, and I said, ma'am, you have a dress over there on that rack, and it looks kind of like a tablecloth. And she said, oh, I know the one. And I said, my wife really loved that dress, and I want to buy that. And so then what you do is that you have a place to hide that stuff. But when you give her a gift, then you go to that place, that private place where you stash that stuff, and then you take it from there. So when you give it to her, and I gave her that dress, and so, it was a couple of months later, I waited for an occasion to give it to her, some occasion. And here you are, dear. And she opens it up. She says, wait, I remember this dress. Well. All right. The Santa Claus category. Here's number 4. Oh, that picture always gives me the chills. But this is the Michael Bolton category. Now, there's more than one Michael Bolton. I'm talking about the oldie that sang When a Man Loves a Woman. And this is just a rule. Ready? A rule. Never criticize your wife in front of other people. You should use discretion about how you criticize her privately, but in front of other people, just don't do it. Never. And sometimes a man thinks he's very funny, and he will tell jokes, and his wife is the butt of the jokes. You be very careful about that. And as a matter of fact, if you want to really do a good thing, and this, by the way, is one of the principles that goes both ways, find something. When you're around people, other couples, you want to really do something good in your marriage for your spouse, find something that you can compliment about your spouse in front of other people. That's a big deal right there. And if you wonder You know, if you say, well, I might do that for my wife, that might be nice. Don't think about it that way. That's really the point I'm driving to, but I don't hold that. What you got to do to figure this out is to think about how it feels if your wife compliments something about you in front of other people. You know, you're over at somebody's house, and he's a woodworker, and you're a woodworker, and the wife of the house, she says, he made this coffee table. We're so proud of that. And then your wife says, oh, that's beautiful. And my husband, he's like, he can make anything. I'm amazed at the beautiful things he's made in our house. You think, well, isn't that nice? All right. You want to really help your wife. Don't you criticize her in front of other people. You find things that are kind, that are complimentary, that you can say about her. Here's the last one, the Superman category. One of my college roommates divorced his wife. She found another man, and so far as I know, he never remarried. A very sad story. Very sad. On the night before the divorce was final, another one of our classmates who was friends with him and we drove a significant distance to go to his house and spend the night at his house because of what it was about to be finalized the next day, and it was. And so we talked into the night, mostly listened to him as he grieved. And one of the things he said was, you know, I just went out of town so much. And then he started naming instances where she had a little fender bender one day. Well, her husband was out of town again. And so she called this other member of the church. He's got a wife, he's got a baby, but she'd call him, and he would rush right over to help her. One day, their baby, crib, carriage, whatever it was, needed some assembly, and she couldn't do it, and her husband was out of town with work. So she called this brother over. Could you help me with this? I can't get this together. Well, of course, he was happy to do it, happy to come over and happy to do it. And one thing led to another, which just leads me to this point. Gentlemen, there will be times in the life of your marriage when your wife needs a helping hand. I want her to always reach for your hand first. It will sometimes, did your wife ever come over to you and say, honey, I can't open this pickle jar? I always love it when Cindy does that, especially if I can open it. Whenever your wife, sometimes it's going to be because your wife does a dumb thing. You know, maybe she's off somewhere and she let the car run out of gas again. And so she calls you. It's just her habit to just neglect that, the needle. And so she calls you at work and she says, oh, honey, I've run out of gas again and I need you to come and get me. And would you help me? And I know you're busy. I'm so sorry to bother you. Now, you got a couple of choices on those occasions, gentlemen, and one is to just let her have it. How many times have I told you to watch the needle? Everybody's got to do this. Anybody with one eye and half sense knows how to fill the tank of the car. And here you are calling me again. I'm at work and I'm very, very busy. I'll come, but it's going to be a little while. I've got a couple of clients here. You could let her have it. You could let her have it. After all, this is not the first time this has happened. And you could get there and you could have a gallon in your hand. You could pour it in the tank and you could say, I'll see you later. I'm going back to work. You big dummy. How do you think things are going to be at home when you get home that night? I hope your couch is comfortable. There's another way to do that. Superman, you hear me? What I'm talking about in this category, we're talking about ways to express affection to your wife in ways that she understands. And by the way, there are going to be times, aren't there lots of occasions when you do things that are like this, that are kind of dumb? I mean that in the warmest of ways, affectionate ways. I don't mean that ugly, but you do. You do things that are dumb sometimes, and you need each other. So she calls and she says, oh, honey, I'm over at Walmart in a big parking lot, and I forgot to fill the car with gas, and it's out of gas, and could you help me? You say, which Walmart? And of course, it's not the one that's, 2 blocks. It's the one that's 7 miles over there. So you take a deep breath and you say, sure. Now keep your cell phone. I'll be over there as quick as I can. I've got to take care of this client, but I'll be right there. I need to go inside so that you'll be safe. And I'll call you on the phone when I get there. And so you run over there And when she comes out, she says, I'm so sorry. I know how busy you are. I'm so sorry. I forgot again. I know. And you say, you know what? Baby, everybody forgets some things. It's okay. I don't mind. And you put the gas in, and I'm just glad to get to see you in the middle of the day. And then if you're really smart, Superman, you'll say, I could take another 15 or 20 minutes. You want to get a cup of coffee? Now you listen to this old preacher. How you think things are going to be that night, Superman? See, because you had an opportunity to chastise her because she did a thing that wasn't very smart. But you didn't abuse it. You didn't exploit that. Instead, what you did was to show her kindness. I want to repeat this. I want it to be the case in your marriage that every time that your wife needs help, that she always reaches for your hand first. Don't you mess that up. It's one of the grand ways that we, 1 Peter 3:7, that we show honor unto our wives. All right, now, don't get up yet. I ask your wives to fill out this question. I have not looked at a single one of these, but I'm going to read them to you. And the question on the paper is, the most romantic thing my husband has done for me in the last 2 weeks is this. Did you turn yours in? Okay. Just want to make sure. I thought you were telling him you didn't. We were going to read yours. Oh, okay. Now let's just do it this way. Everybody's anonymous. All right. Aren't you curious? The most romantic thing the last couple of weeks. Okay, here we go. Not at all. There we go. Complete anonymity. Anybody else? Okay. Here we go. Now, I love to do this experiment. I really enjoy this in the seminars, and I will often do it, but I never do it in the reverse gender. I never say to the men, what was the most romantic thing that your wife has done for you the last couple of weeks? Because I think it would be mono-themed, and that wouldn't be interesting. But this is interesting. What is the most romantic thing the last couple of weeks? Here we go. He cooked me breakfast and brought me coffee. What category would that be? Cary Grant, right. He made a delicious dinner and runs me a bath after a long day. There you go. He takes me on a trip to the mountains to see the colors of the leaves last week. This one says, there are too many to count. Every man here is going to turn to his wife and say, that's mine. Let's see. This is not about a husband, it's about a boyfriend, and that's just great. When I have a bad day at work, he meets and buys me lunch to vent and to talk. He listens to her. He watched a movie with me together. He made the bed and had a fire in the fireplace when I got home. Now, I'm going to keep on reading. Don't you think it's interesting? I just want to make the observation, gentlemen, because this session is for you, that so far, and I don't know what the rest of them say, there's no sex in here. It's not that your wives don't appreciate sex or love you and want to be with you in that way. It is that what I asked was, what's the most romantic thing in the last couple of weeks? And I'm not sure that that's what they think about. Sometimes maybe, or maybe it would come a little lower on the list. These are anonymous. They could write whatever they wanted, I suppose. He took the dog out. Romantic rascal. I tell you what, that's really good. Okay. This session was meant for your husband. Okay. I'm just teasing you. I'm teasing you. He has tucked me into bed or laid with me till I fell asleep. I'm pregnant and have been going to bed abnormally early, like at 8:30 p.m. That's great. Okay. He cooks and cleans and helps with laundry and tells me he loves me every day. What category? Mr. Clean. Okay. Most romantic thing last couple of weeks. He does the dishes and helps clean without me having to ask. Now, I would also like to point out that these were filled out before this session. He brags on something I did this past week. How we doing, guys? Huh? How we doing? This is the language. You know, you speak this language. It's what I'm telling you that it's the language that she understands. It's what she gets. This is sacrificial. He changes all the diapers when he's around, even the dirty diapers. That's true love. Now, it is not uncommon, this one is the last one, and I saved it. It's not uncommon to have one when I do this experiment like this, and this is one of the reasons why I want this to be anonymous. So I don't know who wrote any of these. None. I don't know any of these. But her response to the most romantic thing my husband did for me the last couple of weeks was, I don't know. And so I do not know who that is, but what I want to hope and pray for you is that this session was valuable. You will never get your spouse to do what you want him or her to do by depriving your spouse of what they need most. You never will. You cannot change other people. You can only change yourself. And in marriage, what you can do is to create an atmosphere that is most conducive to your spouse being the best she can be, or your husband to be the best man he can be. You can create, and that doesn't force anything, and who knows? I don't know if it'll change. The Bible indicates that it will, probably, 1 Peter chapter 3, but you live in such a way before God to be the best husband you can be, regardless of whether or not she reciprocates. You be the best wife you can be, whether or not he reciprocates. That's what this is about. And it is your best chance at having the kind of marriage that you really want. I'm so glad that you came tonight. I hope you enjoyed the time that we spent together. In the morning, we're going to start off talking about how to love a husband. I assure you that session will be quite different from tonight's for a valid reason. Then we're going to talk about how to fight fair. We're going to make some rules about times when you argue, if you ever do. And then the last session is going to be about the intimacy of marriage. And hopefully we'll uncover some things that are really important to talk about. And before we close in prayer, is there anybody who wants to say anything? Anything you want to say? Okay, we're good? All right. Thank you again. Thank you so much for coming. Let's pray. Father, thank you for all the ways you bless us and for your great mercy, and especially for the cross. And thank you for our marriages. Please, Father, bless us with music and happiness and joy in our homes. Help us each to be what you would have us to be in our marriage. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. Good night. You're dismissed.